Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Parliament officially reconvenes. Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training launches a national research network. And Trinidadians and Tobagonians could be better off if they were to adopt a more entrepreneurial-driven mentality. Thank you for joining us to our top story. Parliament reconvened with the usual pomp and circumstance that accompanies it. And for the first time since Trinidad and Tobago became an independent nation, Parliament convened somewhere other than the Red House. The ceremonial opening third session of the country's 10th Parliament took place at Tower D of the International Waterfront Complex on Wrightson Road in Port of Spain. President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency George Maxwell Richards, as the head of the nation's armed forces, inspected the soldiers before he made his way into Parliament to declare it open. The Parliament received the blessings of various religious heads before being addressed by His Excellency. During his address, Professor Richards reminded politicians that they must ensure equal opportunity, even-handedness, and transparency all exist in any policy that affects citizens.
We need to remind ourselves that equal opportunity is not the domain of any individual or group in our diverse population. Decisions taken in this Parliament must be such as to ensure even-handedness and transparency in policies that affect the welfare of all our citizens. There must be equality of opportunity, and merit must count above every other consideration.
In other news, the Honorable Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, Senator Fazal Karim, has launched a national research network. The network, called TTRENT, or Trent that should be, is the first of its kind in the Caribbean region.
Trinidad and Tobago has taken a step further towards first world status with the launch of its own National Research and Education Network, TRENT. TRENT, or TTRENT, which is short for Trinidad and Tobago National Research and Education Network, is a specialized high-speed internet service dedicated to supporting the needs of the research and education communities in this country. Tertiary Education Minister Fazal Karim has signed a memorandum of understanding between his ministry and the University of the West Indies, the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and the College of Science, Technology and Applied Arts at a signing ceremony held at the National Academy for the Performing Arts in Port of Spain. Speaking before the signing, the minister underscored the importance of having an NREN.
The importance of such networks cannot be overstated. They have facilitated collaborative research across countries in such critical areas as climate change, poverty reduction, health education, and biodiversity. This REN will not solve all of our problems. However, it will enable the entire research and education community from all disciplines, countrywide and eventually region-wide, to almost immediately come to an even point in the higher education sector. It will allow education institutions to take full advantage of ICTs and share learning resources to produce new knowledge, which can be used to solve problems of national and even regional or world importance.
Minister Karim says he expects that Trent will quickly gain momentum and numerous persons and institutions will grab at the opportunity. He adds that a large percentage of the population is expected to make use of it eventually.
We expect to see at least 10 new institutions connected, both private and public, to the TTRENT by 2013, and an estimated 200% increase in the network footprint and capacity within the next 3 years. That's the kind of target I'd like to hope for. Our hope is that by 2015, approximately half of our population will be persistently on this network.
Minister Karim also issued this challenge to the public.
I want to challenge all of us to use it Don't misuse it. Don't abuse it. And certainly don't refuse it. Let it be something of a lifetime, that in the year of our 50th anniversary, we have again added a light onto the horizons. I thank you very much.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us.
I bring a message of peace. P-E-A-C-E. It's about patriotism, environment, and citizenship education, calling you or youths between the ages of 14 to 20. Become a trainee in the Peace Program nationwide.
Just 6 weeks of peace training starting 9 July.
Come join us 2 days a week.
From 9 to 3.
Over the age of 18.
You want to be an instructor in this program?
Your training starts from the 25th to the 29th of June.
Interested in becoming a trainee or instructor?
You can call us at 625-2652 or 625-9557. Or visit us online at peaceprogram2012@gov.tt.
The Peace Program.
Promoting patriotic citizenship.
An initiative of the Ministry of National Security for the 50th anniversary of Trinidad and Tobago's independence.
Thank you for staying with us. Trinidadians and Tobagonians could be better off if they were to adopt a more entrepreneurial-driven mentality. Now, this is the belief of the Honorable Planning Minister, Dr. Buendradat Tewari, who is also calling for entrepreneurial education to be instituted in secondary schools.
Entrepreneurs came in for praise and encouragement by Minister of Planning, Dr. Tewari, while he was speaking at the Education in Entrepreneurship seminar recently. Dr. Tewari says entrepreneurs possess the skills necessary for transformation in the economy.
A key agent whose role will be pivotal in the successful transformation of any country, but certainly of Trinidad and Tobago's economy, to a sustainable, innovation-driven economy is the entrepreneur. It is the entrepreneur who possesses the vision, the spirit, the acumen to perceive opportunities that are available and not always easily discernible, and to take advantage of them by innovating, by introducing new technologies, increasing efficiency and productivity, or generating new products or services.
Minister Tewari is calling on the nation to realize the benefits of an entrepreneurial-driven society. He says there are wider benefits to be gained by encouraging entrepreneurial education from even at the secondary school level.
The benefits of entrepreneurship education at the secondary and tertiary level should not be measured solely in terms of the acquisition of entrepreneurial skills, but also in increased motivation, contribution to learning, development of creativity, and self-confidence in different aspects of the lives of the participants. Stimulating entrepreneurship in education is not only about business and making profit, it is also about the connections to community well-being, poverty reduction, and sustainable development. If you have a society that is entrepreneurially driven, the entire dynamic of that society will be very different from a society that is dependency driven.
Meanwhile, Judith Mark, Managing Director of CME Consulting, the company hosting the seminar, says education in entrepreneurship is essential if a country is to compete on a global scale. She warns, however, that various stakeholders from the state to NGOs must work together for entrepreneurs to succeed in any country.
Entrepreneurship in education will allow us to develop the skills and qualities required to ensure an adequate supply of entrepreneurs with the requisite skills to create globally competitive businesses. It will allow us to build research centers and centers of competitiveness. But this is not all. It is about the supporting infrastructure for entrepreneurs to thrive. It is about the collaboration between state, private sector, academia, NGOs, and CBOs.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
In other news, local and Caribbean law practitioners of industrial relations have converged here in Trinidad and Tobago to discuss the way forward in implementing better industrial laws in accordance to international labor standards. Opening the week-long seminar, the Honorable Minister of Labour, Errol McLeod, noted the importance of improving existing laws that would seek the benefit of employees in all sectors, including persons in the non-traditional workforce.
Development of national legislation that will secure international labor standards here in Trinidad and Tobago is said to have legal minds engaged in discussions with the International Labour Office, ILO. The seminar hosted by the ILO seeks to equip law professionals with the knowledge enabling them to use international law sources at the national level, as well as implementing labour laws, collective bargaining and employment equality. Speaking at the opening of the training course, Labour Minister Errol McLeod described the discussion as a chance to develop relations between legal personnel and industrial relation experts.
This distinguished profession can, through consultation with other labour stakeholders, advise as to the implications of implementing legislative measures to give effect to the provisions of conventions and recommendations. It is also ideally positioned to give guidance on matters concerning the preparation and evaluation of technical cooperation in ILO activities that our respective countries participate in.
In striking the importance of these laws, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Dennis Byron, noted that such legislation can only serve to benefit citizens.
Programs such as this benefit litigants, benefits the community, and helps to maintain social and economic stability. The CCJ is mandated to assist in the development of Caribbean jurisprudence, and the areas of industrial and labor law, being critical to economic development and social stability, is part of this process.
Minister McLeod said establishing proper work conditions in accordance to ILO standards remained important and part of government's goals.
The decent work agenda is anchored in the 4 interconnected strategic objectives or pillars of creation of full and productive employment, respect for fundamental principles and rights at work, enhancement of social protection, and promotion of social dialogue.
It's the 3rd Caribbean course on international labor standards hosted by the ILO for magistrates, industrial court judges, and legal educators. Members from 13 Caribbean countries will participate in the week-long seminar and is facilitated by representatives from the Geneva-based International Labour Organization, ILO. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
More news after the break.
Meet the Kissoons. It's Saturday, and everyone has to do their part to clean the house. Everything was flowing perfectly until... Daddy, where do you want to go? No. Don't let this happen to you. Pay your bill today.
The Water and Sewage Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Water security for every sector. Deliver it. Sustain it.
Adults aren't the only ones who beat up on kids. Sometimes kids beat up on kids.
Every child has the right to be protected from violence, abuse, and neglect.
Because I shouldn't be afraid to go to school or play with my friends.
Because no child should be hurt by adults or by other children.
Because safety is my right. Stop the bullying.
Unite for children.
Welcome back. The People's Partnership Government is continuing its mantra of serve the people as it recently funded the rebuilding of 2 families' houses. The Honorable Minister of Local Government, Dr. Suraj Ratan Rambachan, was on site to visit the families and oversee the progress of the project.
Having a roof over our head is something many of us take for granted, but that hasn't been the case with the McIntosh and Motilal families in Tabaquite, Central Trinidad. Both families have been living in dilapidated conditions, but thanks to local government minister Dr. Suraj Rambachan and Tabaquite councillor Henry Awang, a better standard of living is in the making. Minister Rambachan says 6 months ago he saw the conditions the families were living in and decided something must be done. He promises more assistance to persons who live in similar conditions, as he says the People's Partnership government does not intend to see people suffer.
We're going to see much more of this being done under my tenure as Minister of Local Government together with the management of the URP. Because what we intend to do is to make good those who live in dilapidated conditions like this and those who are poor and cannot afford. We are going to give this family a start with this 24 by 24 house, which is a simple 2-bedroom house with a living room and a kitchen. But what it will do, it will provide a better environment for children like her to be able to study and become someone great in life, because this is what we're all about. You know, our government, the People's Partnership government, is about the happiness of people in the country. We do not intend to stand by and see people sad in this country or people suffering in this country. And I consider it my duty, like all my colleagues and my good friend here, Councillor Henry Awang, to bring relief to people who are living in these conditions.
Minister Rambachan also thanked the URP management team who played a big role in making the project possible. He says improving the quality of people's lives and doing good for the country will be the new purpose of the URP.
You see, what is happening here is that you're seeing a new face of the URP. A face of the URP which is a purposeful face, a face that is intended to improve the quality of lives of people. This is what URP was always intended to be, and this is the vision with which I am going to invigorate the personnel of URP, so that we can all add value by our presence to the lives of others. And I want to thank them for taking on this challenge. There's a new passion in the last 2 weeks in the leadership of the URP, and I hope that that passion will inspire other people in the URP to do similar good things in our country.
The families remained so elated by the act that amid her tears, these simple words were all this woman could utter.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, friends.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Friday, 13 July is the revised deadline for registration for the annual youth sport camps organized and managed by the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, the camps will run for 3 weeks starting Monday, July 16th. The national response to the registration drive has been excellent, and due to overwhelming demand, the deadline has been extended. Parents and guardians are asked to note that the swimming and gymnastics venues are oversubscribed and will not be registering any more children. Football and cricket venues are also high in demand, so registration will be accepted on a first-come, first-served basis. The other sport disciplines available are athletics, basketball, cycling, golf, hockey, netball, rugby, sailing, table tennis, tennis and volleyball. Now, interested persons can call 643-5630, 643-1009 or 643-0346 to register for the youth sport camp at a venue near you. In other sport news, curriculums at every level of the education system will include sport and other extracurricular activities. This was revealed by Dr. the Honorable Tim Gopi Singh, Minister of Education, as he delivered the feature address at the awards ceremony for the National Primary Schools Cricket League. The minister also imparted some valuable information to the young cricketers. Wayne Cunningham has more.
At the awards ceremony for the Atlantic National Primary Schools Cricket League, Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, Minister of Education, reflected on the number of players who passed through the competition.
I'm advised that over the past few years, the standard of the cricket game has been on the rise in the participating primary schools. And later this year, quite a few players from this league could find themselves being called for trials later this year, Mr. Ramlal, as the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board Mr. Raghunath, prepares for the bilateral Under-13 Goodwill Series against Barbados. Yes? Indeed, several players who passed through the system under sponsorship over the past few years have gone on to greater heights in regional cricket. And just one example is former West Indies Under-15 captain Stephen Katwaru, who has also qualified for the national senior cricket team.
The minister stressed the importance of children indulging in sporting activity.
When children participate in sports, it has the power to combat everything from aggression to low self-esteem and self-image to the high school dropout rate. It combats all of these. And therefore participation in sports is one of the most desired things for our students, whether it be cricket, football, athletics, volleyball, basketball, table tennis, badminton, swimming, water polo. All these sports are critically important for the development of our children.
The former Trinidad and Tobago fast bowler emphasized the importance of the game to the country at regional and international levels.
So when you represent your country, you represent the minds and you represent the emotions and of millions of people. But in Trinidad and Tobago, we have 1.3 million. But when we have our players in the West Indies team, you represent the minds of millions within the Caribbean and CARICOM. And recently on our Prime Minister's return from St. Lucia, when she came in on Friday, she spoke about the discussions that one of the major discussions in CARICOM was the issue of cricket. Because cricket is one, and if not, probably one out of two areas that bind the entire CARICOM region together from different countries. And probably the University of the West Indies is the other. So there were active discussions amongst the prime ministers of the Caribbean on just this matter of cricket.
Dr. Gopi Singh then made his position clear regarding extracurricular activities.
This league competition also goes hand in hand with our Ministry of Education Youth Trust for the development of extracurricular activities and sports in our schools. About a year ago, when I spoke about the need, the general population thought that I was banning extracurricular activities. That was not so at all. That was probably deliberate misinformation and mischief. It is getting the whole system of extracurricular activities structured in a manner that will allow for success of these extracurricular activities within the curriculum of the primary schools and even the secondary schools. And in that context, I sought the advice of many sportsmen, and today I have with me a National Advisory Committee on Sports for the Ministry of Education that will help to carry the sporting aspects within our school system.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
News 4 continues after the break.
Personal music players can stop you from being aware of your surroundings. Always be aware of your surroundings and periodically look over your shoulder to prevent anyone from sneaking up on you. Remember, crime prevention is everyone's business. A message from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Thank you for staying with us. The Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration is reaffirming its commitment to ensuring that persons who practice or they practice their religion without fear of prejudice or discrimination. Now, this comes from the Honorable Minister responsible for that ministry, Clifton Nkoto.
The Minister of National Diversity and Social Integration, Clifton Nkoto, says citizens are encouraged to freely practice their religion. While speaking at the launch of the Allah Suwada movement, a 3-day conference which was attended mainly by members of the Orisha faith, he insisted citizens should practice their freedoms.
As we celebrate our freedom, of our independence, we encourage the freedom of all our citizens, freedom to worship, freedom from prejudice and discrimination, freedom to believe, freedom to pray. This is the reason for the Ministry of National Diversity and Social Integration to enforce the inclusivity of all people of Trinidad and Tobago, to revitalize and re-energize our citizenship, forged from the love of liberty. We can only get there with our hands joined in harmony, unity, and dream for a better tomorrow for Trinidad and Tobago.
Minister Nkoto says understanding other person's religion is the key to mutual respect in Trinidad and Tobago.
The ministry stands to affirm our unity as a people. We may not practice the same traditional religious practices, but if I am able to understand your beliefs and you are able to understand mine, then we have a mutual respect. Doctrine speaks one language, and I believe that we ought to as well.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you so much for joining us.